hard at doing that. It creates a platform or an environment where God can cause the gifts of the Spirit to flourish among us because the love of God is here. Because if the love of God is not here, the gifts of the Spirit will actually highlight the sinfulness of our own hearts. That's what they do. And God's wanting actually to come among us in such a way that He can encourage us and build us up in our faith and cause us to love God more and to love each other more. The more we choose to love each other and care for each other, the more God can actually cause that to happen in our midst. And so when people bring prophecies, sometimes when people bring a prophecy, people stand back at, sometimes it can be critical of things. But if there was an atmosphere in here, if we built a whole environment so that if someone brings a word from Scripture or bring a word of prophecy or speaking in tongues and interpretation, if there was a sense of rejoicing about that, wow, isn't that great, Isn't that great that God's speaking into the hearts of people? And really rejoice about that. So often we look at the person bringing it rather than saying, God, you're doing this, And so that we really have that sense of the joy of God in our hearts, that God's speaking to the people of God here and working in our hearts. And if we build this environment of love and rejoicing and esteeming one another because of what's happening, the more I believe that the gifts of the Spirit will flourish and mature right in our midst. Now, love is not a gift. It comes when we ask God into our lives, and He works with us to make us a more loving person. Love will not develop simply because we have been filled with the Spirit, but because you make it your aim every day to walk in the Spirit. Every day to walk in the Spirit. And God can make us a more loving person. Now I want to look at these statements in this passage here that Paul makes about love. And as we go through these, I'm going to get Chris on the PowerPoint to run through the different points about love here. I just want you to rate yourself. Now, some of them you'll be able to tick off and say, actually, I'm not too bad on that one. Give myself a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10. You might tick some and then you go, whoop, not sure about that one. You'll rate yourself, and some of them you'll find that you're okay on, and others you'll feel, whoa, that's my weak point. And it's interesting that we'll probably have all different weak points. There'll be some of you weak in some areas and some of you weak in others. And I'm sure that as we go through these points, one of the things you'll be very tempted to do is say, oh, heck, that fits my wife. Or, that guy over there, that number 7 fits him. Or, you'll look at other people because immediately you'll think of other people when you look at the different things about love. But I just want you to look at yourself and say, how do I rate on this? First of all, love is patient. Well, when are you impatient? When you're on the motorway and someone beeps the horn behind you, tells you to hurry up or something, do you get all snotty and, all of a sudden lose your rag and want to hit them one? With the kids, or people in church, what triggers off your impatience? And some of you will find, I'm getting really impatient about something or other. Love is kind, and we can say some very unkind things to each other or about each other. Love is not envious or get jealous. I mentioned last week that I think that envy and jealousy often come out of our own insecurities. If you feel good about yourself and who you are, you don't have to compare yourself with other people. You just feel comfortable with yourself. But if you really struggle with your own insecurities and your rejections and your hurts and so forth, then you tend to compare yourself with other people all the time, and that's when you start becoming envious of what they've got and what you haven't got. And so if you're envious or jealous, and that's a struggle for you, you need to deal with your own insecurities. That's where you've got to start working on, at that level. Love is not boastful. Now, most of us don't go around saying that, I'm the best. We kind of don't do that. Well, I hope you don't anyway. I'm the best. But we can be very good at dropping hints or telling a better story. Actually, I was saying to the earlier congregation, this is one that I kick myself occasionally at, and the worst place I find for people to tell better stories is actually at ministers' meetings. I think ministers' meetings are actually terrible. I think because ministers are always listening to other people's problems, when they get together, they never listen to each other. They've got to tell a better story. And Diane actually hates going to ministers' meetings and wives' meetings because she always tells me off afterwards, why did you have to tell another story? You guys never listen to each other, you know? And it's true. I come home from a ministers' meeting and I kick myself around and say, why didn't you keep your big mouth shut, you know? Because you always tend to tell a bigger story, you know? Sort of a bit of a boastful thing, you know? You kind of inflate yourself a little bit. You may not have that problem, but I occasionally do. Love is not proud or arrogant. And the idea behind this, the proud, arrogant, is the idea of blowing yourself up. It's a bit like blowing up a balloon. You know, the trouble is when you blow up a balloon, it's actually very easily pricked. You know, and sometimes when people blow themselves up, they're very easily deflated as well, very quickly. Love is not rude. You know, rudeness is a lack of courtesy, where you push in front of other people. You know, get to the front of the line. You know, I'm more important here. Push yourself in on others. Love is not self-seeking or domineering. You know, love doesn't dominate or want to control other people, or love is not aggressive towards people. Do it my way kind of idea. You know, love is not easily angered, is not irritable or easily upset. And some people are very touchy, you know. Have you heard so-and-so is upset? You heard that? No? Actually, I shouldn't be telling stories, but I go to an indoor bowls club. And we had someone recently who said something about another person that was not complimentary. And someone overheard it. And guess what they did? They went and told the person what this other person had said about them. You know, you want to clonk somebody on the head sometimes when people do that, don't you? You know what it says here? Love always protects. Have you ever said something that you wish you hadn't said? Or are you all perfect people, you know? You know, I say things sometimes and I kick myself all the way home thinking, why did I say that? You know, you just say it. You know, and I rely on other people sometimes to protect me from, you know, so that they don't pass it on to other people. Love protects each other. Love protects us from hurt and all the rest of it. We protect each other. That's what love does. Well, anyway, in the indoor bowls club, this person passed on to the person, and this person got so upset about what this person said, and even though they've been in the club for years and years and years and years and years, they now refuse to come back to the club until that other person's gone. No, it's not the men's club. No, it's not a men's club. I won't say who it is or anything like that. But that happens, doesn't it? It happens in churches. Sometimes we're very touchy, very upset very quickly. Love is not easily irritable or upset. Love keeps no record of wrongs. You know, it's incredibly sad when I hear Christians, you know, who tell of events or conversations that they had with someone 15 years ago. You know, and he said that to me, and I said this to him, and he said this to me, and I said this to him, and they recount the conversation word for word 15 years ago. And I sit there dumbfounded and think, how can they remember this conversation of 15 years ago? You know, they must have memories like elephants, you know. And it's true, and people do remember them. You know why? They have recounted them over and over again in their mind, and it's like they've taken a hammer and chisel, and they've chiseled it into the memory banks of their mind. That's actually easy to do. Some of you have done it. You recount those conversations, and you record them on the memory banks of your mind. And love doesn't keep on recording those things. Love makes a decision to say, I'm not going to record this, I'm going to forgive. And you choose to keep on forgiving, and you choose to keep on forgiving, and you choose to keep on forgiving, so that they don't get engraved on the memory banks of your mind, but they're actually wiped clean, because you choose to wipe them clean by giving forgiveness to people. Love keeps no record of wrong. And love always protects. It protects the reputation of others. It protects you from protects you when you say things that you shouldn't say. Love always trusts.